Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Houston Business Journal State of Giving and Nonprofit panel. I'm Tracy Pelter, Market President and Publisher of the Houston Business Journal, and it's an honor to have you here today as we explore the impact of philanthropy, corporate social responsibility, and nonprofit innovation in our region. Thank you to our panelists, sponsors, and guests for joining us. Your presence today reflects a shared commitment to building a more compassionate and equitable Houston. Be sure to tag the Houston Business Journal in your posts and stories. We'd love to see your photos and favorite moments. To follow along with today's event and learn more about our incredible panelists, just scan the QR code displayed on the screen. You'll find the full digital program, including speaker bios, event highlights, and more. Please note that right now we're about to begin our conversation. And first, but before I do, I want to please welcome our presenting sponsor, the United Way of Greater Houston. Please give them a round of applause. Of course, we want to thank them for their leadership and continued commitment to strengthening the nonprofit sector across our region. We'd also like to extend our thanks to our silver sponsors, Berkman, Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston, Goodwill Houston, and Witham. We are so grateful for your generous support and all you do to uplift our community. Thank you as well to our contributing sponsors, the Houston Public Library Foundation and your part-time controller, for helping us bring this important discussion to life. And finally, we're so appreciative of our venue host and event partners, Churrasco's Catering, for the delicious bites we're going to have this afternoon, and the George Theater for welcoming us into their beautiful space. But now it's my pleasure to welcome a very special guest to the stage, representing our presenting sponsor, the United Way of Houston, its leader whose work has made a lasting impact across our region. Amanda McMillan serves as President and CEO of the United Way of Greater Houston, where she leads one of the most influential and impactful nonprofit organizations in our city. Under her leadership, United Way continues to drive meaningful change by investing in critical community services, supporting vulnerable families, and advancing systemic solutions to some of Houston's most pressing challenges. Amanda brings a deep commitment to collaboration and innovation, values that align beautifully with the mission of today's event. Please join me in welcoming Amanda McMillan to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing today? I know, I'm loving this venue. We were joking backstage, though. We're like, you're not going to see any jazz hands up here today, so just know that. But again, good afternoon. My name, again, is Amanda McMillan. I'm President and CEO of United Way of Greater Houston, and it's truly an honor to be with you all here today for such an important and timely conversation. Connecting with our region's nonprofit leaders, of course, is always vital, but given all that we've just experienced in the first almost half of the year, it's been quiet though, right? No uncertainty, no volatility, it's all good. But it really is especially meaningful for us all to be together today to learn and engage. As many of you know, across Greater Houston and throughout Texas, nonprofits are facing growing uncertainty and mounting pressure. Demand for services continues to rise, and that's driven by, growing economic uncertainty, persistent gaps in access to childcare and healthcare, and the ongoing strain of disasters that seem to come more frequently and with greater intensity. These challenges are layered, they're complex, and they're rarely predictable. And yet every day, our community and all of you in this room show up to meet them with resilience, creativity, and deep commitment. United Way of Greater Houston is so proud to stand alongside all of you here today as a partner, convener, and problem solver. And that's why I'm especially proud to highlight a powerful example of nonprofit partnership in action, the Greater Houston Disaster Alliance, our joint initiative with the Greater Houston Community Foundation. You're probably also going to hear about this from Steve Maislin in just a little bit, but I'll give my spiel too. We're 5 days in now into what is predicted to be an above-average hurricane season in terms of activity. And given that, it's really important to recognize that our region does not and cannot wait for the next storm. We have to, and we do, prepare for it. the Disaster Alliance brings together philanthropy, government, and nonprofit partners to mobilize quickly when crisis strikes. In 2024 alone, we saw how vital this alliance was. When Hurricane Beryl, the April floods, and the derecho swept across our region, the Disaster Alliance moved with speed and coordination, raising and deploying over $9 million to help our neighbors recover and rebuild. But a key strength of the Disaster Alliance is actually what happens between disasters. We invest in readiness to ensure there's a trusted infrastructure in place. So when the skies turn gray, help isn't just on the way, it's already here. That same commitment and support extends beyond disasters. At United Way, we work year-round to strengthen, empower, and equip our region's nonprofit community, helping to ensure they can thrive in every season. An example of that is our new Government Grant Readiness Initiative, made possible by a generous grant from Houston Endowment. This program helps nonprofits prepare to secure and manage government grant funding. That sounds like a crazy thing to say right now, I know. But there are actually still very real opportunities out there, and this is a long game, and we have to make sure our community is ready for that. And it really is a critical opportunity, especially with this grant we have, and especially for smaller organizations that may not have in-house grant infrastructure, but are doing transformative work in their communities. And again, I know that's hard to believe that's something that organizations should be focused on right now, but we want to make sure our community is ready for those opportunities, and we're grateful to be part of that process. This exciting new initiative has already attracted hundreds of signups for our virtual sessions. We started earlier this week. We had 1,400 registrants for our first session. Now, part one did begin earlier this week, but it is absolutely not too late to sign up and join upcoming sessions. You can use the QR code behind me to register for those upcoming sessions and learn more. Of course, I'm sure most of you don't need a course to know that grant makers love to see nonprofits make strategic use of data, and at United Way, we do too. That's also why I'm so proud of the work being done by Jessica Davison in our Coffee and Quality program. Coffee and Quality is a free professional development program that helps nonprofits turn data into insight and insight into action. Participating organizations gain practical tools to measure their impact, tell their stories, and innovate in ways that move the needle for both their mission and the communities they serve. And Coffee and Quality isn't just another webinar for morning multitasking. It is a launch pad for transformative, data-led organizational innovations that drive real impact. 94% of participants surveyed said they plan to utilize the content shared during their sessions. Sessions occur quarterly and are open to all members of the nonprofit community. So you can scan this other QR code behind me to learn more and sign up for our next session, which is coming up on July 24th. And through Nonprofit Connection, we offer a year-round hub for learning, networking, and support that is complete with workshops, webinars, consultant directories, job banks, and more. If you're interested in learning more, I hope you'll stop by our table today and speak with Dr. Ronnie Haggerty, who I just saw in the audience. There you are. Hi, Ronnie. Who leads this work with both wisdom and passion. Before I close, I do want to share one more amazing opportunity, and that is our annual Power Tools for Nonprofits conference, generously sponsored by CenterPoint Energy. It is back on November 19th, and I invite everyone here today to take advantage of early bird pricing while supplies last. This really is a great conference. Power Tools brings together experts from across the country to share cutting-edge strategies in fund development, human resources, marketing, organizational effectiveness, and leadership development. Whether you're looking to navigate today's challenging economic climate, boost your team's effectiveness, or find new ways to inspire and energize your staff and volunteers, this conference is designed with you in mind. Use the QR code behind me. There's a lot of QR code references here this afternoon. You can get anything through a QR code. So use it again, and you can register through that QR code for early bird pricing. Again, it is a wonderful and very affordable investment in yourself and in your organization, and I can't wait to learn and connect with all of you there. All of these programs reflect a core belief we have at United Way of Greater Houston. When nonprofits are strong, our whole community is stronger. And that's never been more important, especially as families work to build lasting stability amid growing financial pressure. And that's why United Way continues to invest in the integrated client journey, a holistic approach to helping families achieve their goals. Whether they access services on their own or work with one of our trained navigation partners, clients receive personalized support across critical areas like employment, housing, childcare, and financial planning. The results speak volumes. Last year, 100% of clients receiving navigation services through the integrated client journey reported meeting at least one of their personal goals. And the average household saw a 17% increase in monthly income within just 1 year. And 100% of clients surveyed said they'd recommend navigation services to someone else. These numbers aren't just numbers, they represent real lives transformed, families getting back on their feet, parents able to stay in the workforce because they found high-quality, reliable childcare, new careers obtained thanks to accessible coaching and training. That's what happens when we invest in people, in systems, and in each other. As we look ahead, I invite everyone here to consider what it truly means to build a resilient region, not just in moments of crisis, but in the everyday work of creating opportunity for both our organizations and the households we serve. And I want you to know, our team at United Way of Greater Houston is always working to empower this incredible nonprofit community to make the most of every new opportunity. Because financial stability isn't a luxury, it is the foundation for our region's long-term success. Every person in this room plays a role in strengthening that foundation. And it is truly an honor to work alongside you as we continue connecting people to possibility in so many profound and meaningful ways. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Amanda. At this time, I'd like to invite each of our other sponsors. They'll come to the stage briefly for a few remarks. I'd also like to welcome our very first silver sponsor, Emily Smikle, representing Witham, now with the Houston office because of their union with PKF Texas that was announced on June 2nd.
Hello, as she said, my name is Emily Smikle, and I am a newly minted tax partner at Witham. And many of you may know me or my colleagues as of PKF Texas, but as she just said, just a few short days ago, we have now joined with Witham, and we are proud and excited for that. So a little about the new us. Witham ranks as the 23rd largest public accounting firm in the country. We are an advisory, tax, and accounting firm with offices in major cities and financial city centers across the country, also with an international presence in India. Our talented accounting and advisory professionals add value to every relationship with a dynamic approach to problem solving. We are purpose-driven to be a catalyst for the growth and the success of our people, our clients, as well as our communities, which is why we're so proud to be a sponsor here today. We aim to foster a team of professionals who serve clients with unwavering integrity, collaboration, and trust. Just as PKF Texas has been, Witham remains proud to serve not-for-profits around Houston as well as around the country. So thank you for being here. We hope you enjoy today.
Now, please welcome Will Levin, immediate past chair for Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Houston.
To raise this a little bit. Good afternoon, I'm Will Levin, and as he said, I'm immediate past chair for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Houston. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2025 State of Giving. First, thank you to the Houston Business Journal for hosting this important gathering and for highlighting the generosity of our city. I'd like to give you a preview into the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Houston, where every day hope walks through the door. Last year, over 55,000 kids and teens from neighborhoods across 5 counties found a second home at our clubs. These young people don't come to us with privilege. They come with potential, buckets of it. They show up after school hungry for food, for safety, for someone who believes in them. And what they find is more than a safe space. They find hot meals, homework, STEM labs, homework help, not homework. We don't give that. Maybe some do. Basketball courts, art studios, and mentors who help them see them, guide them, and remind them that they matter. In 2024, nearly 17,000 youth became registered club members. Every single day, 3,700 kids walked into one of our clubs and took a step toward graduation, toward leadership, toward a better life. But here's the truth. This doesn't happen without you. We've built a strong, diverse network of support, corporate partners, foundations, government grants, and individual donors. And still, the need outpaces the funding. Stability for youth, tweens, and teens requires all of us, especially in times of uncertainty as we're facing today. It's during these times of uncertainty that the strength of our community partnerships truly shines. We have seen firsthand how businesses, civic leaders, individuals, and nonprofits can unite our community. I invite each of you to consider how your organizations and networks can help bridge gaps when resources fall short, whether through sponsorships, volunteer time, or advocacy for policies that prioritize those who need us the most. This is not charity. It's a prudent investment in our region's future as the clubs prepare today's youth to be tomorrow's employees, entrepreneurs, and future leaders, enabling Houston and the surrounding areas to continue to be a dynamic source of growth and opportunity for all of us. So whether it's through sponsorships, employee engagement, or advocacy, your partnership can change a child's path. We thank all of our stakeholders for their commitment to the clubs through both their time and treasure. And we invite each of you here with us today to join us in positively impacting our youth today and in the future. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's program.
And now, representing one of our contributing sponsors, Houston Public Library Foundation, please welcome Nicholas Sawicki, Executive Director.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Nick Sawicki, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Houston Public Library Foundation, and we're delighted to be able to partner with the Houston Business Journal on today's State of Giving panel conversation. Now, as someone who has spent 2/3 of his life in the nonprofit sector, I know the demands that are placed on nonprofits to get the word out by any means necessary, right? We all face that. We're constantly asked, how are we sharing our mission? How are we promoting the programs we're doing? What are we doing? How are we getting the word to people that we can serve and those who can support it? And that often means costly investments in videos, audio products, printed materials, and uniquely branded items. It's a necessary evil, right? Spending money to show people we exist. And there will always be that need to produce certain materials at a certain quality level, right? We all need to do it. The Houston Public Library has a solution for you. We have been quietly investing in new TechLink centers over the last 5 years. We've built 4 of them across the city. 5th one is coming online by the end of the year, and we plan to build 16 across the city. Now, what are TechLinks? TechLinks offer free video studios. They offer free podcasting studios, music studios, 3D printing, embroidery, laser cutting, graphic design software, large-scale printing, and so much else. This is all absolutely free. The number of nonprofits we see come through our TechLink facilities on a monthly basis continues to increase because the materials are quality, they're free, they're accessible during business hours, and they're yours to use. So, and I do want to note that the Houston Public Library Foundation has been very proud to support this initiative with our partners to make it possible. So I invite you all to swing by our table to learn more. We have some fun gadgets outside that you can learn to play with our colleagues Kenneth and Jonathan, and to learn how the Houston Public Library is a partner to nonprofits throughout Houston. Thank you.
Next, please welcome Michael Winkler, President and CEO of Goodwill Houston.
Good afternoon. At Goodwill, we pride ourselves on helping individuals to help themselves through the power of work. Now, most of you are probably familiar with our stores, but I'm here today to share with you the story behind the stores. And that is that we serve nearly 20,000 individuals in the greater Houston area each year. and we place over 5,000 of those individuals into sustainable work. And we do that through our many employment centers, job connection centers, and our soon-to-be announced training center on Gessner Road. So many of you, when you donate, probably think you're doing a really great job helping us in the community. Hopefully today you know why, and that is to help those 20,000 individuals find meaningful, sustainable work in our community. We're super excited to be a sponsor here today, and I know we have a great panel for you all to hear from. So thank you all very much.
And wrapping up remarks from our amazing sponsors, please welcome owner and CEO of Berkman International, Sharon Berkman.
Good afternoon. I think of all the events that Berkman is privileged to sponsor, none makes me happier than being here for people that do such amazing work in our community. It's so terribly important. And I will tell you, with our roots being 74 years ago, as my dad returned from the Second World War, destined, according to his family, to become a pastor like 100 and some odd years of his lineage had always ordained a son to be in our family, he decided that, in fact, his true calling was to serve people in a completely different way. At that time, this was late 40s, early 50s, there was this emerging new field called social psychology in the workplace. And so, you know, we're very familiar with it now, but it was brand new then. And he decided that rather than be a pastor, his true mission, his true ministry was going to be helping people with this new field of social psychology. That said, you know, I feel that one of the most important roles that any of us have is that we have to recognize that being in a nonprofit or a faith-based organization has every bit all the challenges of any for-profit company, and more so probably. But that said, I feel like, you know, today I've been asked to just reference burnout. How do we deal with burnout? And I will tell you, number one, this is a true challenge, and Berkman really, in our heart, it's a company that, while it's listed as a for-profit company, all of us believe that our real purpose is serving people with a nonprofit heart and soul. How do we do that, though? You know, how do you really help people in the workplace? The way we've done it for 74 years is that we shine a brighter light on some of the ways that people can more deeply appreciate and understand their own individual strengths and what they need to stay recharged. So what do I mean by that? Well, we all have our ways that we show up in an effective, socialized way. It's called our usual behavior. It's how we get our work done, and it's all good. In Berkman, it's always described in a very positive way because it is. And yet, we also know that people are complex, and we know that we're far more layered and nuanced and complex than our outward behavior may indicate. So what we do at Berkman is we say, you are all that and more. And we shine a light on what we call our underlying motivational needs. And those needs are like the roots of a tree. You know, we can identify the type of tree it is, but it's really the roots that are doing the work of sustaining that tree. So that's one way we minister, if you will, and support people in all kinds of work, wherever they work with others. It's also really about being a good leader through self-awareness and also others' awareness. So the original name of the Berkman Method was a test of social comprehension. And if you think about it, the word to comprehend means to understand. And to understand is to have empathy and a deeper understanding of who people really are and what they really need in interpersonal relationships. So that's one. The other part that's really a part of how we avoid burnout is that Berkman measures something we call our areas of interest. There are 10 major categories, and they're very applicable. They've worked for years, and they have actually tracked in 24 languages with the international people that we work with. And I can tell you today, one of those 10 is social service. So without taking a Berkman, I will guarantee you that if I gave a Berkman to all our panelists, they're all very high in being social service oriented. That said, we also know that each of us is uniquely born with these traits. These are not acquired. They come with the baby's first cry. And that's what our research is showing. And it's for a very good reason. Society as a whole needs all this diversity of what we love to do. And here's why it's important to avoid burnout. When you know what kinds of activities or interests, as we call them, really are meaningful to you to the point where it feels like play rather than work, and it gives you more energy, which it does, some of them may be part of your day job. And what we also coach people to know is if there's a particular category that doesn't happen to be part of what you do day in and day out, it's really important that you include that in your personal time. Why? Because, as Joseph Campbell said, it's like your bliss. It recharges you, it rejuvenates you, it makes you feel, it's like time doesn't count when you're in your bliss. And so that kind of, for example, maybe in your job you have no opportunity to exercise a musical interest or an outdoor interest. But what we say is when Berkman tells you that that's a high percentage, it becomes a mandate for you. And you will be like getting good sleep, nutrition, exercise. It's in that category of importance. So in those ways, we know that if people have that kind of self-management awareness and also extend that understanding to those they live and work with, it won't necessarily avoid burnout, but it goes a long way toward maintaining your mental health and at least mitigating any chance of burnout. And I do know, nonprofits, again, they're just as hard as any for-profit company, only harder. So we all want to do everything we can, particularly in these days of so much uncertainty. And frankly, we all know, every nonprofit is, or I'm certainly mindful of potential to be affected by the changes that are happening from our government right now and the geopolitical issues. So I just want to conclude my little moment here of addressing how Berkman looks at avoiding burnout by saying, a few months ago, I found what I thought was a brand new book by Simon Sinek, one of my favorite writers about business. And he started out with Built to Last, which is about your purpose. But this book was called The Infinite Game. And why it resonated so deeply with me is he said, well, there's two good ways to earn a living. One, the finite game is all about being successful, being profitable, making a lot of money, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we love that because maybe they'll support the nonprofits, right? But the other game that he referenced is the infinite game. And the beauty of the infinite game, and I think that's what most of us are all about today, is that in the infinite game, it's really all about the meaning and the purpose of what is occupying our thoughts and energies. And the other thing about the infinite game is for all of us, including me at Berkman, the goal is for the good we do to have that ripple effect where we know that even when we're not there, that infinite game continues to ripple out in a meaningful way, giving back to others. So I really congratulate all of you who are supporting these wonderful nonprofits. I'm so proud of the panel that you are going to hear from in a moment, and I'm so glad that all of us are willing to play the infinite game. Thank you.
Thank you all once again for the partnership and for the important work you do across Greater Houston. Let's give another round of applause to all our sponsors. Now it's time for the conversation you've been waiting for. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'm Sean McCrory, Editor-in-Chief of the Houston Business Journal. I have the privilege of covering the leaders, organizations, and innovations shaping the future of Greater Houston. And today's topic is one that's especially close to my heart, the power of giving. I'm honored to moderate this important conversation with a truly distinguished group of leaders, each of whom is making a powerful impact across Houston's nonprofit, philanthropic, and corporate social responsibility landscape. Together, we'll explore how giving is evolving, what meaningful impact looks like today, and how collaboration across sectors is shaping a stronger future for our region. Now, let's welcome our panelists to the stage. First, Pierce Bush, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters Lone Star. Next, Melanie Johnson, CEO for Collaborative for Children. Steve Maislin, President and CEO of the Greater Houston Community Foundation. Courtney Meadows, Social Impact Manager with Phillips 66. And Sharu Mukhtiar, President and CEO, Interfaith Ministries for Greater Houston. As a reminder, if you'd like to submit a question during this discussion, you can text it to the number displayed on the screen. We'll save time at the end for audience Q&A. Well, first, thank you to the panelists for joining us today. This is going to be a great conversation, I hope. Again, the way this is going to work, I will ask the questions. It is for most of them for the group entirely, but there are going to be certain questions that point more to the wheelhouse of certain panelists. Feel free to answer first if that is the case. The first question we have, what are the most pressing issues or opportunities facing Houston's nonprofit sector today, and how are your organizations addressing them?
Happy to go.
Okay.
We are facing the perfect storm in the nonprofit community, as we all know. And as far as how we are dealing with it, at IM Houston, we had to go through a significant reduction in our workforce, but that also has led us to become very creative in how we structure our programs. We are looking at existing resources, but also diversifying and amplifying our efforts to find every dollar that we can to support the services that we provide.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to take a stab at it.
Okay.
Yes, well, at Collaborative for Children and most all of the Houston nonprofits, I think it's imperative that we begin with the fact that we are not in the room with nonprofits and the business community. We're in the room with businesses that are for-profit and businesses that are nonprofit. And if you regard us as nonprofit, you're typically just looking at our outputs. We need 4 children to have 4 new books. But if you look at us as businesses, what for-profit organizations or businesses can do for us is make sure that, so our statement of financial activities are divided when you donate for Collaborative for Children, my organization and other organizations as well, other nonprofit businesses. They're divided into with donor restrictions, without donor restrictions. Without donor restrictions gives us the opportunity to really run a business. With donor restrictions, restricts those funds for 4 children to 4 books. So the opportunity to have more operating dollars would be very, very supportive for the nonprofit businesses. So please see us as businesses because we are seeking market share, we're seeking capital expansion, you have shareholders, we have donors and investors, and we certainly want to please them just as you do. So, thank you.
No, I would take a stab at maybe narrowing. I'd agree with everything that's been said. Narrowing in on something more specific, we're beginning to pay a lot more attention pretty recently to looking at AI and the impact that that'll have on our business because we think it's really accelerating and it'll be very substantial. And I would argue it's an opportunity and a challenge all at the same time. Tremendous opportunity for us as a smaller organization in terms of staff to be able to look at data, look at donor giving patterns, and look at research about prospects and what have you. You know, we want to grow for the benefit of the community and grow strategic giving. And so it gives us an opportunity to do research in a way that, you know, we could only have dreamed of 5 years ago. At the same time, we're competing with national organizations that are going to go out and take everything that's out there on the internet and bring it to their donors and say, we know everything about Houston and Houston's nonprofits, even though they don't have anybody here, or they may have one person here. And so that the platform is changing in a really big way. And also, what is it going to mean for how we staff the organization? Right now, we're thinking of it as an augmentation tool. It may slow our headcount growth, but not replacing, but it's going to transform the way we're doing business. And, you know, frankly, we're looking to get outside help, you know, reaching out to local companies. That's one way they can help us because they have a lot more expertise than we do. But that's a place that we're really beginning to, you know, put some thought into it.
Okay, I'll parlay off that because I was going to say I think technology is really interesting for a number of reasons. Again, not to make this about the Big Brothers Big Sisters mission, and first of all, I'm very pro-technology. I got to say that. I think that this will elevate and innovate and allow us to live, all of us to live greater lives overall. But, you know, from a Big Brothers Big Sisters perspective, we see interesting outcomes in our youth, for example. You know, years ago, I've been the CEO, by the way, my Houston market president, Alistine Blackshear, is here, and some of our Houston leaders who just do a phenomenal job. So I run an agency that covers most of the state. But years ago, we didn't see a ton of mental health outcomes in our data. Now we do. We didn't change how we support our volunteers and our littles. But interestingly, a lot of kids are growing up where they don't have the same level of human interaction. And we are putting a positive role model mentor in the life of these kids, and we see lots of positive benefits for that in terms of mental health outcomes, interestingly, which is new. From a staffing perspective and from a business perspective, I couldn't agree more. We are able to constantly automate some of our systems and run our business in a more efficient way, which is ultimately great because it allows us to, in my opinion, great. It allows us to have, theoretically, as time goes on, a smaller staff count. We, like every nonprofit, probably struggle to pay people enough. This is one tool where we can now pay people more if technology truly augments. Now, it can never replace. The key thing that AI is not going to be able to do, in my opinion, is replace human's ability to have circularity. What does that mean? It's a big word. I should probably be careful saying a big word because it's not, people in my family not normally good at pronouncing big words, but circularity is that innate sense of something where it just kind of feels off or feels right. Our mission to support kids and to support the volunteers to support them, you have to have humans. You can't automate it. By the way, you can't have technology mentoring a kid because guess what? That kid still needs that human connection. We are wired for people. So let's make sure we keep technology in the boxes where it's supposed to fit to enhance our lives and not replace human connection. And it's kind of a rambling answer, but I agree. I think there's lots of positives for technology.
It was a circuitous route. We got
yeah, there you go.
I think that everybody here has really said quite what I would say. So I'll pass on this. This is really their subject matter expertise. This last question.
Can I just jump in with one thing I forgot to say? One thing that does terrify me about AI, and when we look at it in recent trainings we've had, is in the world of cybersecurity. The tools that the bad guys have, if you haven't taken a look and you're not focused in that area, I'll just stop because I've taken too much time, but that's an area you need to be paying attention to because it's terrifying and it's accelerating.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. How has the Houston business community responded to shifts in charitable giving trends, and what role do businesses play in driving philanthropic initiatives? I'll go ahead and start with you on this one, Kelly.
That one I can answer. And I'll go ahead and just focus on how do we support giving. And first of all, it is by philanthropic investments, first and foremost. It is also through our employee programs. We have robust employee programs for volunteerism as well as for matching gifts. We have a branded volunteerism program, Good Energy, and this branded program really brings volunteerism to the forefront, and employees are recognized for this work, and they lead this work. It is also about our United Way campaigns, our employee giving campaigns, opportunities not just to engage our employees in the giving piece of that, but to make sure that we are connecting them to the learning and the importance and the impact. So going through simulation exercises where they're really experiencing what one of the clients would go through. It's also about engaging other businesses and vendors in our fundraising efforts. And we have been very focused on this and really seen some great success in engaging folks in special event fundraising. When they don't have a United Way campaign, it's their opportunity to collaborate with Phillips 66 and to support community. It's also the leadership piece that we've been very intentional about. So really wanting to make sure that every partner in our portfolio is supported with either a board member or a committee member, or that we have adopted them for regular volunteerism, making sure that some facet is connected and very well supported. And I will also say that something that we did recently for the first time that I was really excited about is we hosted a community partner forum. That happened last November, and I think, Pierce, you were there, and that was new. We invited all of our portfolio partners, all of the partners that we also have sponsorships with, and it was an opportunity for them to come into our house, if you will. Our entire executive team was involved. Prior to the event, we wanted to understand, what was top of mind, what did they want to learn about, and how could we really add value to the conversation. So that was, I think, a very impactful experience and something that we're really proud of and want to continue to do. It also just gave folks opportunity to really build relationships and collaborate across nonprofits, and that was exciting to see. So that would really be the answer. And then in terms of, I think your first question was, how are we responding to shifts in charitable giving? And we stay very consistent with our charitable giving. It's very relationship-based. We really focus on understanding what the current needs are, how are things evolving, and how can we help? How can we be supportive? So it's really about our partnership, our collaboration, and just very much practicing relationship-based philanthropy.
You want to take a shot at it, Steve?
Oh, sure. Couple different things on the business side. One thing that we're seeing is a desire for more education, if you will, kind of tying into what you were just talking about. So at the Community Foundation, we've been asked a number of times in the past year to come into various businesses and talk about our Understanding Houston project, which is a data indicators project that's done in partnership with the Kinder Institute at Rice University, which is about 200 indicators around the community, just general information, and then looking at what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well, that provides context that can then be applied for the giving patterns for whatever company that those folks are working at. So it just, in line with what you were just saying, it's more information, and really it's kind of interesting because we also work with a lot of individuals and families, and the kind of throughput that you're seeing on that is this emphasis on data and impact. And that, it's been that way for a while, but it is just really accelerating. And so, information and, coming together. And then the last word, I think, or the last comment you made, collaboration. We're just seeing more and more of that everywhere.
I'll parlay, if that's okay, because I think it's an important point. Courtney mentioned the word consistency, and it maybe goes against the grain of the question of shifting. I think Houston is unique because Houston's, first of all, very outcome-driven. What works? It's a very business-focused city at the end of the day. But Houston, in my opinion, the philanthropy here is consistent. It is relational, as we said, and that really matters to the nonprofit partners. Because some cities, I hear about this from some of my colleagues who run agencies in other parts of the country, they're kind of all about the shiny object. And I think what Houston has proven to do, because of incredible partners like Phillips 66 and because of great organizations like the United Way of Houston, is they can really, really, truly create collaboration because they focus on things that work and stick with them. And don't say, oh, let's go try to figure out, the shiny issue at the time. Now, that said, there are times where these subtle shifts need to happen. For example, I can think of this with Courtney, with Phillips 66. There was, a few years ago, there was a lot of unrest with police. Well, Courtney's organization, Phillips 66, is a big supporter of the police here in Houston. And through one of our conversations, they realized that we already had an active partnership with HPD to put mentors in the lives of kids. These are people that selflessly serve the community, and we're serving extra through our mission. Well, they said, we should do more of that. Let's sponsor that. And it was exactly what the moment needed at that time. And Phillips 66 said, we want to support Big Brothers Big Sisters because we believe in what you're doing. We want to support this because it's important for the community that we feature these stories of police officers serving the communities that they are also policing. And that's a win-win. So it meets the moment at the time, but it's also consistent. We're here with Courtney. We're here with United Way. When they say jump, we want to jump with them. But it's done in a way that affirms the mission that is already working. They're not trying to say, Big Brothers Big Sisters, go do something that's not core to your mission. They value what works, and they stick with it, and that's important. In Houston, I'd say that's unique for Houston.
Great.
I'd like to jump in real quickly, Sean, if you don't mind. So I'm going to shift things just a little bit because what has changed in terms of the trends for philanthropy for us, or for perhaps the majority of us in the nonprofit business world, is, of course, recently the work that we do, for the most part, we exist to plug the dike for women, minorities, diversity and equity and inclusion, equitable access to education, those things that have become bad words. And I see that the philanthropic for-profit business community has come to our rescue more as thought partners. They're walking us through their processes. They're making sure that there's nothing on our websites that would keep us from, barring us from the funding that they've been historically giving us. But, we exist to serve these historically marginalized communities. And they've been very thoughtful in not letting us go, but walking us through and just kind of working with us shoulder to shoulder. And I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, I will say that has been a big focus over the last few months, is just the conversation and finding out how we can still work together in the best way and how we can continue to meet your needs.
What changes in donor priorities have you observed, and how can Houston residents and businesses align their giving strategies to meet evolving community needs?
I'm happy to answer that. I think generally speaking, our donor community is looking for transparency, is looking for the evidence-based practices and outcomes, and also an alignment to their own values and organizational priorities. And just to kind of illustrate that, I went through a partnership with Comcast last year where the digital gap in underserved, under-resourced communities is a big issue that we're all dealing with. The people we serve don't have access, not just to the tools, but also to the how of they can navigate through all of those resources. So with Comcast and all of the technology hubs that they have invested in throughout our communities, we're able to provide the services related to technology, the resources that our communities can access right here in our nonprofit organizations. And so just having that partnership and everything that we've said we saw that come to life through this partnership, where they came and asked us what we needed, where the gaps were, and we were able to specifically identify what those needs were, and then we were able to design the technology hub that could then serve the community. So I think having that level of partnership and having that level of relationship, understanding, and really wanting to invest in what the nonprofit needs instead of just making kind of a transactional investment in the organization has made a tremendous difference.
I think it takes time. It takes building of the relationship, and it takes focus and trust to work together and to see these wonderful, collaborations come to life. But it is through very intentional, purposeful relationships.
What collaborative efforts exist between businesses and nonprofits in Houston that you believe have set a benchmark for addressing challenges in the current philanthropic climate?
Well, I'm happy to. Oh, sorry, did I step on
No,
someone?
you did not.
I apologize. Okay, I'm happy to share an example that we've been deeply involved with and are quite proud of, which is in the disaster response and resiliency area. We have a long background in that, as do a number of other organizations in the city, thanks to our experience with hurricanes. And ours goes back to some of the most interesting work from my perspective. We were the kind of the back office for President Bush, going back as far as the tsunami, and did a number of those funds, including the Katrina Fund, which was in partnership with the Clinton Foundation. And then when Hurricane Harvey hit, many of you may remember there were a number of different funds in town. United Way had a very large fund. J.J. Watt had, I think, a larger fund than he ever intended. And we all kind of collaborated together, but it was not an ideal situation. And so we started a conversation in particular with our friends over at United Way of Greater Houston. What's emerged is, I hope many of you know, is the Greater Houston Disaster Alliance. And that was, first of all, it was funded in order to launch with what we think is a very visionary gift from Phillips 66 and Enbridge. Thank you. And we now have staff embedded full-time at each organization that, in blue skies, 365 days a year, we're looking at best practices. We're building up the nonprofit network to deploy the resources. We have the governance structure in place. And we're not only, learning from others around the country, we're deploying our knowledge and helping other communities. We were there helping Asheville as a way of example. And the business community, as they've always been there in times of disaster, as I said, there was the lead gift, but also they're there as lead gifts for each fund that comes up. And I think that's just a terrific example. And then, of course, it's a cross-sector collaboration. We're right there with the city and the county as well, evolving what has always been a great partnership. And less confusion for the donors, because two organizations that have always been the lead there are joining together. And obviously it's a little self-serving, but I think that's a great example of this cross-sector collaboration that funders are looking for.
That was my example as well.
Wow, you fund it and then I steal it. I'm terribly sorry.
Y'all need to switch sides.
I would also add that our partnership with United Way of Greater Houston, they've almost created a hub of an ecosystem where they bring all of the nonprofit partners together for each other, but also with our business partners and our community partners. So I think that makes a huge difference with all of the resources that they are able to provide to us. I think that has made a transformational difference in many of our nonprofits.
All right. How can Houston businesses step in to support nonprofits affected by federal funding cuts, and what partnerships would be most effective in filling these gaps? I'm sure everyone's trying to answer that question.
You might want to pounce on it, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I was going to echo a lot of what Courtney said. The flexibility and in the funding that is provided so that we can really allocate the funds where we need them most. When it's restrictive, it makes it even more challenging. It's one more hurdle that we have to overcome. But I would also say that it's the skill-based expertise that they can bring to our nonprofits, because we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the capacity. And so when they're able to invest with the volunteerism, with the skill-based experience that can help us through our boards, through various aspects of the organizational operations, it helps tremendously.
Yeah, I would say that now that a lot of the federal dollars have been cut and moved to the state level, it would be really incumbent upon the business community to support the nonprofit businesses in a way that they help to advocate. I am reminded of a few years back when Scott McClellan, he was head of HEB at the time, and he wanted to, compel the business community to galvanize around full day for pre-K4. We had half-day pre-K3, but not full day. And so it was cumbersome for parents to get out, especially parents who were eligible. And he joined forces with the mighty power of the Greater Houston Partnership and was able to galvanize that group in a way that House Bill 3 was approved. So there was full-day pre-K, pre-K4. We still have that. We have curriculum, at least selective curriculum that you can choose from. So it was a formidable effort between nonprofit and for-profit organizations in the Greater Houston Partnership, along with HEB or corporations, to come together and make full change. So advocacy in terms of legislative support before the biennial will be important. I'm speaking gibberish as well, too, with big words. But before the biennial would be very, very important for us.
I'll take it from maybe a nonprofit standpoint. First of all, I'm in the CEO position because, ironically, of cuts to funding years ago that after all these agencies merged across Texas created a big issue for us. So believe me, I had to be part of the kind of cleanup effort. So it's not easy. But I'd say some of the advice I'd give to the people that might be leading nonprofits is, number one, as Charlie Munger has this great saying, he's like, if you see the problems coming, don't just sit there sucking your thumb, take action. And interestingly, I see a lot of thumb sucking. Before cuts are even done. I see this again because we're a national network, so I see all this fear. And we talked about some of this. There is uncertainty, I get that. But you fast forward to today's news, which God knows it's changing by the second, and all of a sudden we have the biggest budget ever. So maybe the cuts won't be as bad, it turns out. Who knows? But in the meantime, you can take action now. These members of Congress and their staff, they are accessible to people that come talk to them. And so don't just sit there and say, woe is me, take action. You talked about the biennium. Yeah, it's great. The state has done well. But that's it. To the extent that there are cuts, which our group was cut years ago, and it's very painful, you got to reinvent your business. You mentioned how you're doing that, and it is so vital. The old way of doing things will not work. And I would say you can only, I've heard this recently, it's anecdotal, but there's been some cuts to food-related projects, and I've heard that there has been a wave of funding that meets them. But that message will only last for so long. In other words, you can't constantly fund these cuts if they're permanent. That said, the Houston community is so generous, and where there is a need, resources typically meet that need. But make sure you talk about the demand for the service that you need to provide and not the woe is me. Don't make it about me. Make it about what the mission needs to do. And people will come along. Your business will look a little different. It is a business at the end of the day. But there's light on the other side for good work, especially in this incredibly generous city.
And we're agile people, right?
Yeah.
Nonprofits, we can do it all, right?
Adaptable.
Absolutely. I would just amplify the comment about the kind of skills-based volunteering. We take advantage of that in a big way. We talked about technology before. There is so much expertise, primarily at our board members' companies, that they're willing to share. And, whether it's cyber risk or the new technology we talked about, AI, we tap into all of that. Culture work. Every time we see one of their companies is a best place to work, we're over there in their offices learning, what they're doing, what have you. And it's the equivalent of a huge amount of dollars if we were paying for consulting. That said, I would say as CEO, I think my role is to harvest all of that and then remind the board members that not everything that works in for-profit businesses, although we're a business, works in our business. So let's bring in what does work, but let's remember not everything translates. But I do think that's an enormous resource for us.
And I'll just end by saying that I echo what you all are saying on the skill-based volunteerism, and that has just been a very big area of focus and intentionality, especially with our board and our committee placements, really understanding where the gaps are for the nonprofits, and then just being very intentional in terms of the recruiting and matching up those skills. And then we have really started to move more into skill-based volunteerism, and skill-based volunteerism and taking on those projects. I will also say that I think it's incredibly important to continue to maintain your corporate culture of giving and community engagement and really bring the nonprofits to the forefront, especially during times of need. And not only do that, but couple them with, really put them up at the front when you're thinking about storytelling, when you're thinking about branding. Do this publicly and show that you're behind them and that you're proud of the work.
What innovative funding models or approaches have you seen businesses adopt to help nonprofits maintain their operations and programs?
I'll share one that we work with, and I won't go into detail, it's a little bit beyond the scope, but one opportunity that we have is working with entrepreneurs. We have an awful lot of those in the city of Houston. Those are closely held businesses, and obviously when they have a value realizing event, that is they sell their business and they're liquid, that's easy. But we've had a number of opportunities to work with entrepreneurs where they want to give pieces of their business, non-voting interest, into some kind of charitable vehicle, and some of the cash flow, some of the profit out of their business is then available to support the nonprofit sector. And it is very situation specific, their tax profile and what have you. My point is that if you have your big raving fans on your board and otherwise who have thriving entrepreneurial businesses, you don't necessarily have to wait until they sell. And it's a question that you should approach them. And there's this is also a community that has a thriving financial sector and lots of great advice out there, not just, with the Community Foundation. You should explore that. It's a really powerful opportunity.
I'll take a stab. I think if nonprofit groups can focus on working with businesses to help accomplish their goals, you can create some really innovative ideas, and it will be far more sustainable than just going kind of hand in hand every year. As an example, we realized years ago in Houston, and again, our Houston leadership team does such a great job leading these programs, but that lots of companies wanted their employees to not only know that their company gives, but to see it in their office. We need to mentor kids. So we partnered companies with local schools, brought the kids into the office place. They would write a check to support the program, of course. We call it our Beyond School Walls program. But it's mutually beneficial because the company, every single person that walks by the cafeteria, the place where this mentoring program takes place, knows their company's really involved and they see their colleagues doing it. And those have proven to be incredibly sustainable partnerships with businesses. I don't know if it's innovative, but I think it helps accomplish their cultural goals.
Yeah, that's right. It's incredibly beneficial to the business when you think about employee satisfaction, retention, building community within the company. So, it has a lot of legs.
All right, well, we want to leave some time for the audience Q&A, so I'm going to ask one more question, one final question. What's one misconception people often have about your organizations or the nonprofit sector more broadly?
That we're not a business, number one. That we're just out there doing the benevolent work only, but we don't need resources and staffing and incentives and all of those things that are necessary to make the business run. But I would say for my organization in particular, Collaborative for Children, inherent in its name, people assume that we work directly with children. We work for the purpose of children, and we know that the people most influential in their lives are the caregivers, the teachers, the parents, the child care business owners. And so the misconception there is that we are sitting around the floor with little kids, but really trying to elevate the landscape, the entire ecosystem of early childhood education in the city of Houston. Because you might not know this, but only 45% of children are able to successfully pass the kindergarten readiness assessment in Houston. And only a quarter of Houston's children are able to gain or earn a 2-year or 4-year college degree or even a certificate altogether. So in order for us to bridge that gap, we like to start early and ensure that children go into school with the social emotional skills as well as other cognitive skills to be on par with their counterparts who are already prepared.
I would say that a common myth is that we are perceived to be just that safety net instead of being looked at as organizations that bring systemic change in our communities. When we work with the individuals that come to our community, to our organizations, we're really impacting their families, the communities that they come from. The impact that we have is so much deeper than just that one individual that we're serving. And so really to look at us as system changers, as community mobilizers, and realize that the work that we do is so much deeper, and that we need all of the resources that the for-profit community needs as well, like the technology, the capacity, the infrastructure. We need it just as much if we're expected to produce the results and be as innovative as our for-profit partners.
And I think it's the full realization that there is a great opportunity for strategic partnership and work. And that's really the answer is how you solve problems, how you work together, how you collaborate. And all of these individuals are doing amazing work, and it's the strategy and the strategic thinking that we do together.
It's a pretty easy one for us because we're an organization that sits atop a nice sum of money, and our donors gave out $260 million last year, and a whole lot of people think that I walk around with the board making the decision about where that money goes. Actually, I'm pretty glad that's not the case. Almost all of that money is donor advised. We're kind of the connective tissue between the donors, whether it's in corporate advised funds or individuals and families. So we do provide data, we do provide education, we provide training, we provide opportunities for collaborative giving. Our purpose for waking up in the morning is to grow strategic philanthropy in the Houston community and to connect our community of donors to organizations like we have in this room, and to look at cross-sector collaboration to really make a difference. But it is donor-advised dollars that go out the door.
I agree with what everybody said perfectly, especially what Melanie said, though. I can't tell you how many times you could just sense it when you talk to somebody. They're like, that must be so fun and such an easy thing. And I'm like, you have no idea how hard this is. And again,
you're so sweet.
Yes.
You educate those children.
I invite anybody to come join our Houston team at 1 o'clock on Tuesday and watch Alistine lead our Houston market, which all of our markets that our agency run, this system called the Great Game of Business. I would say we run our business better than your average business runs their business. Because resources are so limited and you have to be very nimble, creative. Believe me, I've gone to lunch with Stephen, tried to get him to juice me a little bit. He didn't, so he's not lying that his donors make the decisions. Sorry, Stephen. It is really hard work, but it's also really rewarding. My cue is I went earlier with Lauren on our team to present to somebody today, and I still get choked up thinking about some of these stories that we're able to create. So it's really rewarding, but sometimes you get lost in the business side of it, and you forget kind of why you're doing it. And it's especially in a leadership role, you have to find ways to remind yourself of that.
That's true.
Yeah. Goodness. Okay, this question is from Alma. How are you retaining your talent to assure service quality and continuity? That's for anyone.
Oh, for anyone. Can you ask it again? I thought you said it was for somebody else.
No. It's from Alma. It's for you.
Okay. I was like, who's Alma? I'm like,
How are you retaining your talent to assure service quality and continuity?
We put a lot of emphasis on culture. My Chief Human Resources Officer is here, as well as some of our leadership staff as well. And, we can't always give the bonuses and the incentives that we'd like to give. We certainly try that anytime there's a surplus. However, we put a lot of emphasis on acknowledging our team members' successes and rewarding them publicly and making sure that their well-being and their health is paramount. that there's a good work-life balance. We work we're hybrid, but we work primarily remotely, allowing our team, mostly of women, to be able to be caretakers for their children. And I just think we've been able to retain good staff. We've had very little turnover just because of the fact that we've emphasized that you are truly an individual working for this organization.
I'll go next on this because I actually feel strongly about this one. We actually do incentivize our staff. It's via the system called The Great Game of Business. For those running nonprofits, I encourage you to go buy this book and figure out, or even if you run a business or own a business, look into it. One of the great things about nonprofits is you can sometimes reach out to the people like Jack Stack, who came up with this system, and get him to come down and train your team for a pretty reduced fee, as a side note. Since we've been operating this system, it was, again, coming out of a pretty difficult financial position. We have not had a year where we have lost resources, and we've been able to rebuild our financial health. And it's all tied to our growing our program numbers, so our kids served. So it is, we have a double, some businesses, by the way, Hillco, Jeff Hildebrand, one of the wealthier guys in Houston, they use The Great Game of Business for their business. And you say, how does a nonprofit like Big Brothers and Hillco, do this? And it turns out it works perfectly. But the critical part for a nonprofit to do it is that your main critical number, you can have 2 to 3, no more than 3, and everybody's actions in the organization should influence those. But the critical number has to be program related. For us, it's new matches. We are on a growth because of some of the great partners here. I don't want to shamelessly keep calling them out, but we've been able to grow and impact a lot more kids in Houston. And our board wants us to continue doing that. And the Great Game does that, and it forces, back when I first started as CEO, I used to have all these arguments about filling this position, not filling it. I'm the last person to see our financials every week across our whole agency. And we get a lot of natural efficiency from people kind of coming up with creative solutions. And by the way, yes, you can incentivize with the bonus, but it also allows you to then reinvest in your staff more. And it becomes this flywheel. We're able to do more things. So I would strongly encourage nonprofit leaders to look at the Great Game of Business. Or come visit us at Tuesday, right, Alistine? Tuesday, 1 p.m.? Where are you? There you are. Okay, I'm like, where's it? It's blinding lights. Thank you. Okay, Alistine. Right, Alistine? Can they come? Okay. Come see our Houston market operate. Tuesdays, 1 p.m. We also, interestingly, and I'll stop rambling after this, but we're big on our values, so that's our other kind of core thing. We just started launching into a program called Excellence Wins, invented by Horst Schultz. Again, he's the founder of the Ritz-Carlton. What does it have to do with Big Brothers Big Sisters? Well, we care about customer service. Our donors, our bigs, our littles, their families, they're all our customers. And by the way, most of our staff, a lot of them, it's their first job. We want, even if they go and move on, we want them to be richer for being a part of our organization. So we've just launched a series of what we call weekly non-negotiables, where we cover one of these things that we will do and highlight others that do it well. And it creates a system. And we do this across our market in Dallas, our market, we're all doing the same one on each day. And so if you can figure out these systems that work, that empower your employees to be their best self, it just does wonders for running a nonprofit, because it allows the CEO to kind of be like, this stuff is covered, now I can think about these other things.
We want to borrow all of your resources for IM. Right, Maria? I think she's somewhere.
Alistine is, 1 p.m. We'll take this gathering there.
Tuesday, 1 p.m.
Tuesday, 1 p.m.
All right. The next question is from Stacy Cook with Baylor College of Medicine. How do you feel the recent endowment excise tax proposal on foundations will impact the philanthropy industry and foundational giving behaviors? Do you need me to repeat the question?
Does everybody know what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me go find it.
I mean, it's not passed yet, correct?
No, it's in the big, beautiful bill.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is in the big, beautiful bill. I was visiting D.C. for a couple reasons, and we visited some Senate offices about 2 weeks ago. And there's a whole lot of those offices that are not real happy with that proposal, so I'm not sure it's going to stay in the big, beautiful bill, first of all. So, we'll have to wait and see. And I'm not sure I could really answer that question in terms of how it'll affect behavior in particular. Some folks think that at least we have a lot of smaller foundations in this community. Some of those may migrate to a different form of operation, but I think probably the bigger question of where that's headed is some of the very large foundations that we have. I know at least one article I read recently questioning the efficacy of that proposal is that there are some investment strategies that you could take that would minimize the income subject to that tax. So that's another thing that they're talking about on the Senate side, is it's really not going to accomplish what they're hoping to accomplish. So I think, it's awfully early in that process.
All right, the next question is from Chase Wilson with Construction Career Collaborative. As the great wealth transfer, thank you, accelerates, how can nonprofits in Houston attract donors and build sustainable funding? And what key actions are your organizations focusing on to fulfill your missions as this transfer takes place in real time? These questions are in real time.
We've
as
gone
well.
yonder with our board
Right.
members, I will say that, in terms of the wealth transfer from one generation to the next, the largest wealth transition probably in the history of our country. So the board, a few years ago, the board of directors decided to skew towards that, recruiting board members who were of the next generation, and it's been working beautifully for us. And especially because we work with young children, parents with young children. These are parents with young children who have devoted interest in our work. So,
I think also creating a young professionals board and getting them engaged with the mission of the organization, finding ways that align with their value system, but also what's important to them, has helped tremendously.
We're focused a little bit the other direction, in the sense that we're doing a lot of legacy planning with our older donors and multi-generational donors, because we want to harvest the philanthropic capital for the local community and have it stay here. A lot of the very wealthy families that are philanthropic are spread out all over the country. And we have this conversation over and over again where mom and dad will say, we made our wealth here, we raised our family here, we want some of the money to stay here. And they're using multiple vehicles. They're sending some money to community foundations in Seattle and New York where their kids live, but they're parking money here long-term. They've always loved the arts, so it's going into some kind of fund, a field of interest that's going to keep it there. But they're also putting money into more discretionary funds to support the community itself. And so that's a major focus for us, because we want to keep those resources here in Houston, which I think is directly related to that question that the time to act is now. And I would say for nonprofits at the other end of the spectrum, in terms of this planning, that if you have board members and major supporters and what have you, who, hopefully they look very healthy, but they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, you want to talk to them about this now and get into their estate planning. And it can be very exotic and complex, but it usually doesn't start that way. It usually starts by putting your organization in their will. And that begins the process of thinking about it. And if you're not having a conversation about that with them while you're talking about their annual gift, that's like malpractice at this stage. And it really just starts there. And it can evolve beyond that, and you can get resources to help have a deeper conversation. But just start there.
All right, well, I want to thank all of our amazing panelists for your time, your input today. Give them a round of applause.
It was fun. I'm sorry I stole the disaster.
That does now conclude our afternoon's program. On behalf of the Houston Business Journal, thank you to our sponsors, our insightful panelists, and each of you for spending your afternoon with us. Before you go, we have a few notes, though. We're offering a special subscription discount exclusively for today's attendees. Use the promo code on the screen to unlock full access to our digital content, weekly print editions, and in-depth reporting on Houston's business landscape. Nominations are now open as well for several of our upcoming awards programs, including Most Admired CEO, Fastest Growing Companies, Women Who Mean Business, and our HR Impact Awards. These programs recognize the trailblazers, innovators, and changemakers shaping Houston's business landscape. If you know someone or a company doing outstanding work, we encourage you to submit a nomination. You can submit a nomination using the QR code on the screen. We'd love your input, and don't forget to check out our upcoming events. From award celebrations to thought leadership panels, there's something for everyone. You can view the schedule on the screen or scan the QR code to learn more. We hope you're leaving today with new connections, fresh ideas, and a deeper appreciation for the impacts of giving in Houston. Now, please join us in the lobby for cocktails, light bites, and networking. We'll see you there.